Wanted to do a video on logos for a long time, so let's do it in 10 minutes from Canada.
If you're rebranding, my hope is by the end of this video, you know everything you need to know on how to think about your logo. Let me introduce you to my good friend who I did my first logo with back in 2009.
On today's video, Josiah Jost, the designer refiner. 800 logos across his pro career. We're on the edge of our seats to find out his insights on logo design.
Your logo is the front cover of your brand story.
And just like a book, Chapter 1 is us exploring 3 Canadian logos. Chapter 2 is about Josiah breaking down the anatomy of a logo. And finally, Chapter 3 is us showing you a few examples of work we've done and how you can apply that to your logo brief. Let's talk about this. This is probably the most important symbol in my life because my parents were born in the Czech Republic and there's a big marketing push. My mom saw Canada in the cinemas, was super excited about the quality of life.
I love the Canadian flag. You know, in the 1960s, Canada was really ready to have an identity apart from Britain and have an icon that you could unite the country and also be attractive to immigrants. So they explored so many different ideas for the flag.
What design do you think the Canadian flag might take?
Well, a maple leaf, of course, and the beaver in the front.
The beaver. Once they had the maple leaf, they explored the 15-point maple leaf, 13, 11, 9, but in the end they landed on the polished 11-point maple leaf flag and created a design system that accommodates our country's 2 languages.
Donut and coffee time?
Always got time for that.
Let's get refreshed.
Tim Hortons is Canada's largest fast food chain. It's also a really good example of a logo refresh.
A refresh is when the brand carries some of the logo's recognition forward. And Tim Hortons has done a great job of that over the decades by modernizing the original hockey player's signature.
A recognition that has led Canadians to be the largest donut eaters in the world. On the other side of the spectrum are full-on rebrands, and the Vancouver Canucks have gone through many of them. Not only symbol changes, but colors, totally changing around. What's your favorite one?
So as a Calgary Flames fan, I cannot pick a favorite, but as a logo designer, I'd have to say the original C. The letter mark that has the ring in the negative space and the hockey stick in it. Just some great hidden story there.
I like the colorway from that one, and I'm glad they brought that back into the newest version of the rebrand. It takes Indigenous art and it combines colors that you see in nature out here. Seeing it up close, you like it?
You know, I actually do like the Orca C with the Indigenous style art. You're right, it has a lot of energy to it.
And now, logo anatomy with Josiah Jost.
A quick primer on logo anatomy. You have 3 general directions that you can go. 1, a logo mark. That's a standalone icon for your company. 2, a word mark. That is a typography-based logo. Or 3, a combination, which is a graphic and typography combined. Typography carries personality. And the 3 most popular options are sans serif. These letters are cleaner and generally more modern. Serif. These letters have the small decorations and tend to be more classic or luxury. Script. This is a hand-drawn style that usually feels more personal. Color and contrast are the most primal aspects of your visual branding. And there's so much you can do with just one color. For example, red can evoke feelings of excitement and energy, but it can also have feelings of warning or caution. And adjusting the saturation, intensity of the color can make it feel soft and romantic or deep and luxurious.
Okay, 3 examples so you can see our work in practice. Example 1 is an engineering company. Now this is a company that started in Germany, but now is global. It predominantly works with products like steel bars and cables, and you'll find them in big infrastructure, mostly bridges all around the world, but also high rises and stadiums. infrastructure is now aging. It's also about systems working together. Because it's been around for over 150 years, it's had a handful of logos to match where the company was. When we were looking at how do we create a logo that fits this new vision and its new place in the world, we looked at the palette and we kept that red that had been with the company for so long. It also is a nod to its German heritage. When we looked at Dividag, Josiah created a custom typeface that was strong, kind of like what it does for infrastructure. And we introduced a navy to give a cooling to the fiery red. There were also sub-brands involved. For example, Infrastructure Intelligence. This was part of the business that really just focused on the maintenance of infrastructure and the data coming off of it. There was also a part of the business that had a slightly different USP, and so we created a little bit of a different visual identity that fit together, but it could also fit under Dividag if needed. Example 2, commit action. Now this is a scale up that is matching entrepreneurs to accountability coaches so they can get more done. This company has been going for about 9 years, and their brief was, we just want to grow up visually. We want an identity that matches the seriousness of the business and what clientele are up to. We wanted it to be timeless. It could fit into the past, it could fit into the future. And there was this space metaphor about exploration and going further we wanted to keep. First, we looked at the typeface and we looked at what are space typefaces out there. Futura is something that NASA was using for quite a while. It's also found on the moon, but we gave it a little bit of a remix so it felt futuristic. Then when it came to the symbol, we held in our heads both the idea of Art Deco and 2050, whatever that might be. And that's why you can still see the rocket going through, but there's a C and an A. Example 3, Matus. Me. When I started consulting in 2009, I really liked hot pink, and I had a Sharpie Philippe Matus that I was using for quite a few years. I liked it, but I'm also turning 40 next year, and I'm a lot more serious about what I do. I still like bright colors, but I'm now channeling the energy of yellow. First, the constraints where I only wanted a word mark, I didn't want a symbol. I also wanted to lose my first name because a lot of people misspell it, so just Matus, and I wanted some distinction there. Now, I almost went with this because it's lifted off the keys of a typewriter, and I really liked it. But then Josiah was watching the first video in this series where I had a photo of my great uncle's typewriter shop in the Czech Republic, and he saw Karl Matoš on there. He took the Matoš off it, modified a little bit, and showed it to me, and I liked the energy. It was certainly more constraining than the first option, but it felt like something I could grow into over the next few years. Connected to Matus is Ada Studio. Now, while a lot of people hire me as an independent consultant, I spend most of my time directing a team of independent creatives. And we needed a better term than just Philippe's team because that's not accurate. Ada Studio is like the umbrella we all stand underneath. The form for Ada is taken from Matus, but the symbol is like an umbrella. You can also see the slants on the lines that makes it a little bit more retro, but it can symbolize time because there's 12 points. It can also symbolize people coming together. Finally, the most important bit is it needs to symbolize the explosion of creativity and energy because that's what we're selling together.
Before we go, let's talk about actually working with teams and creatives that are going to make your logo.
When I go through the logo process, I put 100 ideas on paper before narrowing it down to 5 or 6 that we show to the client. Yeah. And then from there, we have to narrow it down to 1. So we really have to put our egos on the shelf and just go through the true process.
Remember that, a true professional, it's not about like, oh, we really like this one idea. It's here's quite a few ideas. Let's start shutting some doors and actually getting it down. And just as an expectation on timing, like once you strategically understand your brand, you have a clear position, the base brand identity, hard to do it in under a quarter, right? So if you got 90 days and you have the patience to get it there, you can usually get a good result. But the amount of times I've seen that part rushed and then having to redo it and the costly aspect of that, it's just not worth it. Anything else?
One thought.
I hope you enjoyed this video on logos. Josiah and I couldn't cram in everything, and that's why there's matus.com/logo. We're going to keep adding to that. Right now, you're going to find a logo brief template. This is a PDF you can use when writing emails to suppliers. Lastly, video 5 is on style, and that's how to take all the information we've covered and present it in a way that carries the right emotion so it's memorable. I hope to see you there.